There are many ways to say Miller Lite has more taste and only one more calorie than Michelob Ultra. You could say it with your show choir buddies at your high school reunion.
Miller Lite has more taste and only one more calorie than Michelob Ultra.
However you say it, it's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Beer per 12 fluid ounces. Miller Lite, 96 calories, 3.2 carbs. Michelob Ultra, 95 calories, 2.6 carbs. Taste test performed by Institute for Perception, February 2018.
I'm Dr. Laurie Santos. I'm a psychology professor at Yale, and I started to notice that a lot of my students weren't all that happy. So I created a new class.
Welcome, everybody, to Psychology and the Good Life.
But it's not just my students who need to understand the science of well-being. And that's why we launched the Happiness Lab, so you can learn about it too. Are you ready to feel happier? Head to the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Presented by General Motors, offering 30 new electric vehicles by 2025. Everybody in.
Introducing MS Journeys, a podcast series created specifically for people living with multiple sclerosis, brought to you by Novartis. Tune in for new episodes the third Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. and repeats nightly to hear iHeartRadio personality Scary Jones and patient advocate Kate Milliken reflect on the journeys of resilience and courage from people living with MS and so much more. MS Journeys will feature patients, their care partners, and experts within the MS community sharing their stories and insights. Listen in on the MS Vibe Station or find it using the iHeartRadio app by searching for MS Vibes.
Welcome back into Hour 2 here on the Lombardi Line, presented by BetMGM. Stormy Bonantoni here from our VSiN studio at the South Point. Michael Lombardi out on the East Coast. And the last time that we talked, Michael, it was just a rumor at this point that Texas and Oklahoma were planning on seeing what they could do. Yes.
It was a good rumor.
Apparently, they were planning on going into the SEC in the future, and the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey confirmed those rumors. Now that you've had some time to digest this, though, what's your take on the whole situation?
So, for me, my first take is still my take. How does the SEC, it's going to be a tremendous conference, obviously, and it's going to have a lot of different variations of offensive and defensive football. But I don't know how the pathway to get to the finals currently. Now, what do we change into 6, 8 teams eventually at some point? I'm not sure when. Maybe when this will coincide.
They're hoping
but
12.
For me, 12. Are we just going to have is the Southeast Conference Championship game just going to be the Final Four? Is this what we're doing?
Yeah.
Is this what we're doing? And I think if you're Oklahoma and Texas, you've changed how you're able to, how you have to recruit, right? You've got to figure out a different way of recruiting because you're getting in these championship games against these teams. Texas hasn't been that case, but you get out physical. I think this is going to make Oklahoma a much more physical football team offensively, and certainly they can't be as bad as they've been defensively, or else they'll finish in the middle of the pack in the Southeast Conference. So I think it's probably good for their recruiting program. It's good for their base.
And their request is to join the SEC in 2025, so it's not something that would happen immediately or next year, so it seems. But it's interesting to me, not only just within the conference what it would mean for the SEC or for the Big 12, but for the ripple effect that that'll have on other leagues throughout college sports. And the Pac-12 commissioner, George Kliavkoff, had his, public debut at Pac-12 Media Days this week, and he had a few interesting comments saying that there's been significant inbound interest in many schools following the decision by Texas and Oklahoma to join the SEC, but however, that he doesn't see expansion as necessary to ensure the Pac-12 is a factor nationally, thinks they have a good 12. So somebody's really toeing the line here.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of realignment, and everybody's going to position themselves as not realigning when they're looking for the best dance partners, right? I think that's what it is. Oh, we're not interested, but really we are interested, and I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see the Big 12 has to do something. They just lost a huge, that Longhorn Nation, that Longhorn Network carries a lot of clout to it. You lose that, you lose Texas, you lose Oklahoma, you lose your two marquee teams. You've already lost Nebraska to the Big Ten. When I grew up, the Big 12 was Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. 3, and that was the dominant conference. Now it's not. So I think they've got to do something. Did they put Houston in it? They were once in the Southwest Conference. Do they put Cincinnati in, or does Cincinnati go the Big Ten or the Big 12, whatever we want to call them? I mean, to me, I think they've got to do something there. I mean, Oklahoma State is going to benefit because I think this too. The kids that like to stay around and see their teams, and when you're traveling all the way to Florida for a game or, to Georgia and Athens, it becomes a little bit of more of a difficult travel schedule. It also is going to impact recruiting because now, Oklahoma can say to any kid in Arkansas, you can play in the Southeast Conference. You don't have to go to Arkansas. That's a powerful tool.
I'm just not sure in general how I feel about the idea of a super conference. And, we're talking about how other conferences are going to have to adjust and figure out to fill out their leagues essentially. But when you have a conference that's going to take over and, like you said, in terms of the college football playoff, potentially get those Final Four spots, that leaves no hope for the little guy. That leaves no hope for a Cincinnati or for a Boise State or whatever if they're in that position. And that's, to me, as somebody who just enjoys college football for what it is and likes to bet on it and likes to bet different leagues, you find your kind of niche league that you can bet on, as we've talked about a number of times on this program. It's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I think Jimbo Fisher said it at the press conference. It's the only sport. It's the only sport in college that the little guy can't compete for the title. Now, look, we know Sacred Heart's not going to win the NC2A tournament, and we know Hartford isn't going to win but at least they got a chance to compete, right? I mean, Hartford got a chance to compete last year. They lost to, I think they lost to Baylor in the first round, but at least they got a chance to compete. We shall see.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of the NCAA tournament or the College World Series is watching the Cinderella potentially make it through. We are back here on the Lombardi line. Thank you for those of you who are just now joining us here on Hour 2 from our VSiN studio at the South Point. I'm Stormy Bonantoni, along with Michael Lombardi. As we wrap up college football, I just saw some breaking news that our producer, Stephanie Kamershak, dropped on us, and it is done, Michael Lombardi. The Jets and first-round pick Zach Wilson have finally agreed to terms. Sources said he gets his signing bonus within 15 days, and the Jets get their offset.
Well, we knew it was going to break. I mean, they had to test the market. I mean, that's what they had to do. They had to see if somebody was going to break. The Jets were never. This is what the Jets have done. Mm-hmm. So now they get Zach Wilson in camp, and life goes on. I think that concludes all the first rounders are signed. Yep. Look, the one thing I think we lose sight of is in this labor agreement is the owners, with help from the players union, decided they want nothing to do with holdouts, college holdouts, pro holdouts, and they put rules in place to assure that. We no longer see holdouts in the college draft, which used to be the norm this time of the year. And we don't really rarely see holdouts in professional because guys either become free agents and make their money or they wait their turn to make their money.
Having the connections that you do with the league and in the Jets as a whole, you said from the top that we've seen this time and time again from this organization. Why is it always them? Why are they the team that continues to have these issues?
Because they have the different language in their contract. And they like their language, and they're not going to change their language. Whether it's Woody Johnson, whether it's the legal team at the New York Jets, whatever it is, it's not Joe Douglas or the head coach. This is kind of separate from the coaching and football operate. This is the language that they feel most secure with, and that's what they want. And if you get drafted by the Jets, typically that's what you have to resign yourself to signing to, and I'm sure that that's where they are.
Well, again, the deal is done. The Jets have agreed to terms with Zach Wilson, another quarterback that there were a lot of questions about coming into this year, and the questions honestly continue to be there is Deshaun Watson. He wasn't out he didn't do his press availability yesterday, but he was out on the field. He's QB4 right now and playing safety on defense, didn't participate with the full offense. Just what's your gauge on that whole Deshaun Watson situation right now?
Well, I think it's really, I don't think this is about them not wanting him on the team. I think this is about them being concerned that if they give him reps, he's going to get suspended. I don't think this is about, you're here, we're going to trade you. I think this is they're like, wait a minute. The leagues, you're not doing, what are you going to do? We give all these reps. See, what fans have to understand is training camp is a mathematical problem. There's only so many reps every single day. And those reps have to go to players that are either going to play or demonstrate they can play. So every rep that Andy Dalton gets in Chicago, he takes a rep from Justin Fields, right? So it slows Justin Fields' ability to develop into the starter, okay? That's the choice the Bears made. But if the Texans give all these reps to Deshaun Watson, and then week one they say, wait a minute, you're out, you're suspended for the year. What do they do? What do they do? And this is why it was so damn important for Deshaun Watson to go to camp. To start the clock, to see what the league's going to do. I mean, Troy Busby, the attorney for all these women that are involved in the civil suits, is screaming loud and clear. It's like, what more evidence does the National Football League need before they render a decision? I don't know that. I'm not privy to that evidence. But obviously, he's seen it, and he claims the NFL has seen it. So when are they going to make a decision?
Yeah.
And, we have to find that out. And every rep they give to Deshaun Watson before they know whether he's going to play or not, you're wasting the reps. This isn't like we're being spiteful to Deshaun Watson. This is because we have to protect ourselves. We have to get guys ready. Davis Mills, we've got to get Tyrod Taylor. Because literally 22 civil cases, 8 are going to the Houston Police Department has under their investigation, of which 2 are not in the civil suit. So there's potential for 24 civil suits. 24.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you give them reps?
No, I'm with you. And what's unfortunate is that if he is able to get out of whatever the situation is and does get on the field, then he's not prepared because he wasn't in any of the other offseason activities. And to prepare for this moment, he hasn't had the reps either. But as you said, you can't really give it to him right now if you don't know what's going to happen and you have to prepare another quarterback. And it's frustrating because with this situation, it really doesn't seem like there's a resolution in sight. Like, this could carry over into the regular season. I know they say that it doesn't, but that's how it looks from everywhere I'm seeing it.
I know. And so if you're Houston, you're like, what do we do? Do we go ahead and give them the money? Do we go ahead and let them play and then have it pulled back? Or do we use training camp to allow him to kind of just stand around and wait the fate to be determined? Obviously, Houston has a lot of information, way more than the worldwide leader has, way more than any other team has, way more than I have, way more than anyone has. They know what's going on, right? They know. They're privy to all the information. They've done their due diligence, I would suspect. And they kind of have to feel like there's probably going to be some type of discipline come down from this, whatever that may be. And I don't know, but there has been an investigation done by the league office. And as Busby said, I mean, they're waiting for the verdict. And I think this is all what it is. And they can't fault the kid. The kid showed up because he started this process.
So,
now, it would make sense if the league office said to the Texans, hey, look, and I'm sure the Texans asked this, hey, look, why can't you put him on the commissioner's exempt list until you make a decision? I'm sure the Texans have asked for that. And the league's saying, well, we don't want to do that because that would give the Texans a competitive advantage to have another player in camp. But that would be the prudent thing to do. Because we know, as just watching this, observing this from afar, we know there has to be something that's going to come down. Now, Watson's entitled to due process. He is innocent until proven guilty, but he's in civil cases for 22, potentially to 24. He has got the Houston Police Office investigating 8 of them. So, as we go through due process, wouldn't it be better if we put him on the commissioner's exempt list so that everybody has an opportunity? And then to give us one extra player is really giving Houston a competitive advantage? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, Houston has to take this approach.
So because they have to do that, I guess now from a betting perspective, how does that affect your outlook on the Texans at this point? Is it all question marks? You look at that win total for this year, the over-under is 4, their division odds 25-1. But is this just a team that you have to stay away from in the meantime because of all the question marks?
Well, I mean, look, I don't think they're that bad of a team. I really don't. I mean, if they had Deshaun Watson, they would go over that number saying Watson's not going to play. And I think based on Houston's actions. See, some people might look at Houston, what they're doing to Watson as being spiteful to him because of what he said. No, I don't think that's the case at all. Houston wants Watson on their team. They've made that very clear. If they didn't want him on their team, they would give him away. They're asking for a king's ransom because they want him on their team. So So because they want him on their team, they also don't want to jeopardize their team. And I think their team has a chance to win more than 4. I don't think they're very good on defense. I think their defensive front's got a long way to go. But their offensive line should be much improved. Tyrod Taylor could come in and not lose the game. They've got good running backs. They've got good receivers. Even though they traded Randall Cobb, they still have good receivers. I mean, this is a team that if they play football the right way, it has a chance to win 5 games, 6 games. I mean, look, the Bengals are 6 over. You trust Zach Taylor to win 6 games? That would be more games than he's won in his entire career.
That's what I love about you, Michael. The comparisons to other teams really help give you a fun idea of what's going on. With all 32 teams, though, in camp now, getting things started, we're finally getting to hear more from coaches and from players. And Washington head coach Ron Rivera said Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke will be competing for the starting quarterback job. You buying it?
Yeah, I am. I mean, because Heineke did a job in that playoff game. I mean, look, they played as well as they could play against Tampa and had a chance to win it. And Heineke really was just coming off the Old Dominion campus. I think he was, going back to school, studying, and he came out and spit on his hands and rubbed them together, and he went out and played a game. And he played better than any Washington quarterback did the whole season. So you got to give him credit for that, and he deserves the opportunity. They paid him as soon as the season was over because he deserved that opportunity.
Heineke, kind of a journeyman type of a player, but I know that he and Ron Rivera have a good relationship from their time together in Carolina. So it'll just be interesting to see how that one pans out. Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's just such an up and down roller coaster. Is it the Fitz magic, or is it the interceptions every time that he touches the ball?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the key. I'm on the other side of Washington. I'm going to go the under on. Everybody's playing them to go over. Like it's going to be something. They're one of the least vaccinated teams going into the season. Last year in week 17 of the season, they struggled. And it really took Philadelphia to do a Roberto Duran and go no mas on them and quit and let them win that game, or else the New York Football Giants are going to the playoffs. And now they played well against the Bucs. We know that. But there's a lot that I have to be proven correct on. Last year, they were the 29th team in the National Football League in first half point differential with a great defense. Now, part of that was Haskins turning the ball over and not understanding what the hell he was doing. That's their fault for playing him, right? That's their fault for playing him. But I don't know how improved they'll be offensively. I think it's a big, big year. Big year for Scott Turner, their offensive coordinator. I think he's got to prove that he can handle this gig. Son of North Turner. It's going to be a huge year, and Fitz has got to protect the football. I'm always worried about Fitz and protecting the football. Those two lines usually don't go together in one sentence.
Yeah, you and every better both. We'll stick on the trend, though, of quarterbacks here because Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni was asked about his plans at quarterback with Jalen Hurts and Joe Flacco, and he had rave reviews about Jalen Hurts, said that Jalen's playing with the ones. He's earned it. He's worked his tail off, talked about the confidence that they have in him, the jump that quarterbacks can make from year one to that sophomore season, essentially, and really want him to grab the reins and be a leader. Is this a done deal to you? Is there any way at this point that Jalen doesn't start, given the way that he's talking about him?
No, I think Jalen's the starter. I mean, look, he finished the season as the starter. That carries over. I mean, Flacco, look, you have to change the whole offense. Flacco is not going to run the RPO game. Flacco's best under center in a play action pass game. The best year Flacco had in his career, the year they won the Super Bowl, was when he was running that play action pass scheme, separating the defense and being under center. That's not Flacco's game, is being an RPO guy. He'll get hurt. I mean, his back injuries will creep back up again. So this is Jalen Hurts' job all the way. It's going to keep his job. I don't see that changing. I think the only thing that could change that is if Watson has made a decision on what his status is and the Eagles go all in on Watson.
Yeah, and that's something I know that Sirianni pushed back on, the idea of trading for Watson potentially.
Yeah.
What did you think about Zach Ertz?
Well, what did they expect him to say? What did they expect him to say? I mean, look, Zach Ertz they've been trying to trade Zach Ertz. They've been trying to trade Zach Ertz. They haven't gotten the number they want. I mean, Zach Ertz is available if you give them what they want. I think they want a second or a third round pick. Nobody wants to pay that. Mm-hmm. So they're going to keep Zach Ertz. And so, it's like, okay, you could add Zach Ertz at the trading deadline last year if you pay their price. When you don't pay their price doesn't mean that he's still not available. They're just holding out. They're like saying to themselves, look, we'd rather have Zach than the fourth. That's all they're doing.
And just speaking of teams in terms of vaccination status, they had some news come out yesterday from Howie Roseman, who confirmed that 90% of their players have at least started the vaccination process and their entire staff is vaccinated.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you're going to see that because, as I said on my podcast yesterday, the GM Shuffle, if you want to work in the NFL from this day moving forward, you're going to have to embrace the vaccination. You're just going to have to.
Don't tell that to Cole Beasley.
Because it's going to – I understand that, but I'm still waiting for Cole Beasley to give a good reason.
I agree.
You know, I had a coach tell me he didn't want to get vaccinated because he thought there was spyware in the vaccine. Hey, I said, you're an idiot. There's spyware in your phone. Forget about spy. You know, like your phone knows what you're doing. The vaccine doesn't have it. I mean, come on. Like, seriously, that's your excuse? I mean, Cole Beasley says he needs more information. Well, give him more information. Call up whoever you want to call up. You know, I mean, call any scientist and ask them what they think of the vaccine.
I love all the conspiracy theories and people like putting the metal spoon up to them. Because that's not condensation, right? It's definitely that there's a magnet in you.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. But I think, going back to your question, I mean, you know, I think we're seeing a lot of the NFL players are getting vaccinated because it is their job. Their job is at stake. And if it comes down to that, let's just say, let's start at around 29 or 30, player 29 or 30 on the roster. And he's competing with another guy who's vaccinated, he's going to lose. Mm-hmm. The back end of the roster, I can promise you, will be vaccinated. The back end of everybody's roster will have full vaccination because they might have to come into a game. They might have to come into a game.
And it's all about opportunity in this league, no question. And somebody, unfortunately, who is dealing with COVID-19 again is Lamar Jackson. And we know he missed time when the Ravens had their slew of COVID positives last season. And but I'm curious, with him not able to be starting at camp with everybody, what kind of an impact does this have? Just because with a guy like Frank Reich, for example, the Colts head coach, he's a coach. He can get in on Zoom meetings and he can have his discussions. But when you're a quarterback, you need reps. I know he's not a rookie anymore, so he knows what he's doing, but I feel like that's still impactful in a way that he's not out there right away.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You want him to be out there, but obviously he's got to be able to be healthy to be there, so it doesn't, if he's not, you know, you just got to move on, and hopefully the other guys can fill in. Look, no one's going to replace Lamar Jackson, but what has to happen for the Baltimore Raven offense is he's got to be out there working within rhythm with the outside receivers, you know, getting accustomed to Sammy Watkins, which he did all through OTA days, getting accustomed with Bateman, the kid they drafted in the first round. I mean, look, the first couple of days, it's like running backs, Stormy. Running backs who miss training camp, that to me is the greatest news I could ever hear, because I don't want running backs. I don't want them running. I want them healthy for the opening game.
Healthy.
Well, stay healthy. Like, I don't want Zeke running in week 1 against, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Hall of Fame game. I don't need to see that.
Yep, I'm with you. And that's why it makes sense when you see a guy like Sean McVay say that Darrell Henderson isn't going to be out there for preseason games because they want to keep him healthy, especially given what's going on in their running back room. We will come back, because you mentioned the Hall of Fame game, get into some of those week 1 lines in the NFL from BetMGM, see which games bettors should consider here coming up. Stay with us on the Lombardi Line. This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, you get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
You love podcasts.
You love stories.
You love characters.
You don't mind if those stories and characters are completely made up.
And you love This Is American's Life,
the new improvised comedy podcast on Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network.
Hi, I'm host Ari Athiris.
And I'm Andy Harris. Join us every week as we use our trusty random sentence generator to inspire us before each act. We'll use the random sentence to create seemingly unrelated scenes that weave together at the very end, forming a made-up comedy podcast before your very ears.
And we do all the voices like this one.
And this one.
What will happen?
Who will do what over here?
Where will they do it?
How will they do the things they do when they do them?
What will happen is anybody's guess, but it'll be funny.
Hopefully.
It better be. We're contractually obligated to pump out 52 funny episodes of this program.
I don't remember agreeing to that.
Because I forged your name.
That's nice.
So join me, host Ari Athiris, and producer Andy Harris, and a different special guest contributor every week for This Is American's Live.
Now listen to This Is American's Live on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Looking for a way to make online learning a better option for your family? When it comes to virtual learning, experience matters. Tuition-free K-12-powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of experience to work for you, giving your child the personalized learning they deserve without disruptions. With a K-12-powered school, students gain the skills they need to be prepared for their next steps in life, building a better future for each one of us. K-12, education for anyone. Learn more at k12.com.
This is the Lombardi Line presented by BetMGM. Stormy Bonantoni and Michael Lombardi with you. And Michael, just like BetMGM is the king of sports books, the NFL is the king of all sports when it comes to fans and bettors alike, which is why we're so excited even about preseason games coming out, and the week 1 lines have been released. Can we talk, before we get into specific games, just what's important about betting on preseason to take into account? Because it's not like your starters are playing all games. It's new players getting opportunities, and you never really know. The outcome isn't important in general, but for a bettor, obviously it is. So what do you take into account?
I think it's all about the coaches. I think you got to take a real hard look at who the head coach is before you bet, right? So John Harbaugh likes to win preseason games. You know he's going to play to win them, and not that he plays his starters more, but it's important for him to win. So you know that. Bill Parcells liked to play his guys and play. So you go through all the preseason records over the last 5 or 6 years of the coaches that have been around. Now, there's always 7 new coaches every single year, right? So you have no idea. And then start with that. Then second, when you start to build your board, is then you go with the teams that don't have very much staff, like Cincinnati. Okay, I don't know who Cincinnati opens up. Let me look here on my board here, Stormy. Cincinnati opens up in the first preseason weekend. And they'll play Tampa Bay. They'll play the Bucs. The Bucs are favored by 6. Okay, well, this is going to be a backup quarterback game. Blaine Gabbert versus and then they're going to bring in the kid from Florida, the third round pick from Florida, Kyle Trask, or bring him in. And so I think I'd lay the 6 and go with Tampa, because once Cincinnati goes through their backups, they're horrible, and that's how you have to look at it. So depth of teams and head coaches.
Okay, that's good 2 keys to get us started here. The first game, crazy to think about, is just a week from today, August 5th, that Hall of Fame game we mentioned before the break. Cowboys at the Steelers. Steelers favored by 1 in that game. Any just initial thoughts given, their coaching situation and depth?
Well, I think, look, the Cowboys, we know that Dak's not going to play, Big Ben's not going to play, so this is a backup quarterback game, right? And the depth of the backup quarterback favors Pittsburgh. I mean, because I think Pittsburgh's going to want to see Joshua Dobbs play a little bit. I think they're going to want to see their backup guys play, see what they have. And their offensive line, which is a bunch of young players, I think they have to play. We won't see a lot of Mason Rudolph, but we'll see Haskins and we'll see Dobbs. And those 2 guys should be able to carry the mail for the Steelers in a preseason game. I mean, they should be able to do that. And I think I would favor that. I think the Cowboys coming from California, trying to play a bunch of rookies, I don't see that being the case. The depth on Dallas isn't great, so I would lean towards picking Pittsburgh in this game. Hall of Fame games are always funny, but again, I'm going to follow the pattern of coaching and depth.
Yeah, and betting options, just for people listening, are similar to the regular season. You bet the spread, you can bet the total. The sports books reduce limits a little bit on preseason games. Curious how important you think line moves are in the preseason.
I don't think they're important at all.
Not at all.
You're not getting me to talk about line movement.
I don't know.
No, I'm not.
We got to get Josh on here. Right?
I mean, you got my man coming up. He'll talk all about the steam you want. I'm done. I've exhausted myself on line movement. I can't predict what that old lady in Des Moines doing for the Sharps. I have no idea. I'm done with them. I'm done with line. Oh, this line here, all that line movement in the NBA tournament, NBA playoffs really resulted in nothing. It resulted in losers. Yeah. So, no, you're not getting to me. Look, I think it's I don't know how anybody could say, and I've been in the National Football League 35 years, I don't know if there's a sharp when it comes to playing preseason games. I just don't think there is one. I think if you can follow the formula, you like Harbaugh, you like certain teams, guys that are going to compete, good special teams, that's why Harbaugh's so good. I'm sure Joe Judge is going to want to try to win every preseason game he can. So you just looking at that, that's where you want to go. But I can't imagine. I don't even want to hear the word. The Sharps are on. The Texans here. There can't be any Sharps when it comes to preseason. There can't be.
I'm going to ask Josh when he comes on here in just a little bit. But no, just from my own personal pain.
I can tell you right now where Josh. Let me tell you. You don't have to ask him. I'll tell you. There's not enough money. There's only There's one game that has 170 tickets come on it. There's not enough money. He can't follow the money.
Yeah. Okay.
He's Watergate. If he can't follow the money, he can't do it.
I'll tell him. But no, I just have this horrible memory of when Mike Singletary was coaching the 49ers, and I'm a big 49ers fan. 4-0 in the preseason, feeling so good. 0-4 to start the season. Not great. So, pain for Stormy. We'll be back with Josh Applebaum, though. And that's the first question I'm going to ask him, Michael. First question.
Good. Go ahead. Do your thing, Stormy. It's your world.
The VSiN football betting guides are coming soon, and there's no better way to prepare for the college and pro football seasons. Our experts provide profiles of every team with advanced stats and power ratings, plus you can get best bets on season win totals, division finishes, player awards, so much more. Each guide's only $20, and discounts are available when you buy both. So now is the time to get in there, reserve your copy, or you can sign up for VSiN All Access and get everything we offer for the entire football season. Sign up now at vsin.com/subscribe as we welcome you back into the Lombardi line presented by BetMGM. Stormy Bonantoni and Michael Lombardi here with you. And now, our favorite time of the show, we bring in Josh Applebaum. Give him a follow at Josh_Insights. Welcome in. And my first question that I have to ask you, because Michael is mad at me that we're talking about preseason lines.
I'm not mad.
We're talking about preseason lines, and I said, how important are line moves in the preseason? And he wouldn't take it. He wouldn't take the bait and answer the question. So, Josh, you give your perspective on this. Is there money to follow in the preseason?
Well, Stormy, Michael, great to be with you. Stormy, I hope you didn't say the S words theme, because that will really get Michael going. But I think there's a point here. So to Michael's credit, the preseason is it's difficult, because I think really the preseason, there's two ways to look at it. Either you don't bet it at all just because, there really isn't, you're not trying to win the games. You're trying to get a lot of these players just some action. You're not trying to get injured. So there are a lot of bettors who just don't touch it at all. I think if you're going to bet preseason, what I would do, line moves can be meaningful, especially late moves, because a lot of times you'll find out, like right before a game starts, that this team is resting all their, 5 best position players. So those kind of moves, if you can jump on them, I would consider them. We do see totals. Unders tend to perform well. You have kind of these lower scoring games in general. So I would go one of two ways. I wouldn't pick and choose. I would either be all in, stay glued to Twitter, look at these moves, try to get down quick, or I would just bypass it entirely. I think if you talk to different bettors, you might get different answers there, Michael.
Michael, check it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like Sean McVay, you don't have to wait for the day before the game to know he ain't playing anybody, right? Like, I mean, there's pretty much the coaches have determined who's playing and who's not. Like New England, will Belichick play? Yeah, he'll probably play his starters a little bit, but when they have the other thing I think we have to add a layer to this, when they have games that they're going to practice against teams, the Giants, the Eagles, Patriots practice against both those teams, they're probably not going to play the starters in those games. Mm-hmm. So, that's going to be an opportunity to really, and then also knowing that all the coaches want to do is get out of the game. So there's no ties. They'll go for two to lose the game, right, Josh? I mean, how many times have we seen that? Like, I'm going to go for not kick the extra point and go to overtime. I want to lose the game or win the game one play. So I think you got to weigh that into it too. And I was not mad, Stormy, for the record. I was not. Right. I'm with you all the way.
I don't know. I felt the evil stare. But when it comes to the NFL preseason, really exciting that it does finally get underway a week from today with the Hall of Fame game. And Josh, we had some breaking news, though, on the show earlier today that Zach Wilson did ultimately sign his contract. He's going to get out there with the Jets. Where does this lead you in terms of things that are going on in betting circles with the Jets this year?
Yeah, so Stormy, and we just saw this deal come down, Michael. 4 years, $35 million, going to be $22.9 million guaranteed. This was the last first-round pick to sign here. But Michael, naturally, anytime we get news on this, I go automatically to win totals because this is the time of year to really get down on these win totals if you can find value. So I'll throw this at you, Michael. Jets 2-14 last year. They're battling the Jaguars to get the number one pick. Their win total this year is 6. So it's 6, but it's juiced up under. The under is -120. So it's kind of telling you that odds makers, we could expect an improvement here with Wilson. Remember, they had a pretty good draft, I would think, Michael. Vera Tucker, bringing in Elijah Moore, Robert Salah taking over, trying to build a new culture there. He's plus 2,000 to win Coach of the Year. Zach Wilson plus 1,000 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, the schedule is not that hard for the Jets. It's actually the 13th easiest based on win-loss records from last year. Their opponents went 132 and 138 with 2 ties. It's a .489 win percentage. But, Michael, I kind of think of the Jets kind of like the Jaguars, 6.5 win total. You might get some buzz with a lot of these rookies and rookie quarterbacks, but I like to bet against rookie quarterbacks. I'd be leaning under here, Michael. What's your outlook on the Jets this year? Would you go under 6?
I would. I mean, and I don't care what their schedule is, what it says, because the Jets, the way they're constructed currently are they're going to have a hard game against everybody. They're not going to walk into a stadium and be the better team. They're going to have to play really well every single week. And when you look at their team, the right side of their offensive line is a little bit of a question mark, certainly with Roten and Morgan Moses, the kid they signed from Washington. But I reflect back to their defense. I mean, you can't name their starting corners, Austin and Guidry and Hall. I mean, they're going to be a cover 3 team. They're going to have to be a zone team all the way. And it's going to be one front. They're going to have Quentin Williams going to have a great year. And they got to hope like hell that Carl Lawson can play down in and down out. But I don't think there's enough depth on the defensive front, nor do I think there's enough speed at linebacker. Yeah, they get C.J. Mosley back. We'll see how he plays in this scheme. Jarrett Davis can't run. To me, Salai's reputation as a defensive coordinator was enhanced by Nick Bosa, Armstead, DeForest Buckner, and all those guys he had out there, not by his technical or his creativity. So I think it's going to be a really challenge, and Wilson's going to have to prove that he can stay healthy because he's going to get hit a bunch. The left side of the line is good, but the right side I'm not so sure. And do they have enough skill? I think that's going to be a hard part.
Zach Wilson has filled out significantly, I do know, at least in the last year and a half. So hopefully he does become a little bit more durable. The Jets open up their preseason at the Giants, and the Giants are favored -1.5, but I won't. We'll skip over that one and go to their week 1 matchup against the Panthers, Josh.
Well, before we get there, Stormy, I just was on Twitter. And I'm, balancing, I'm a draft Nick just like you are. And Woj just reported that the Pistons have decided that it's going to be Cade Cunningham.
Okay, so there's the update there. And that's good for bettors because I think that is the sense that most people got, was that it was going to be Cade Cunningham going 1 and then Green and Mobley. So that's what it seems as far as do you want to go in on that, Josh? Let's talk NBA.
Yeah, so I got a lot of props for next segment, but real quick, Cunningham, he's minus 5,000 right now. I think we expected that to happen. But as a bettor, that's such a high number that there's really no point in betting that. You have to risk so much to get so little in return that it's kind of almost an unbettable number. But Michael, we were doing shows, I want to say maybe a month ago. There was a moment in time, the only time to get Cade Cunningham was he opened at minus 500. That's a big number, but there was like that couple day window there where he's hanging out minus 500, now all the way to minus 5,000. If you jumped on that one, at that point, I think that was kind of your only chance to bet him. But also, there is an exact outcome odds, guys. We'll talk more after the break. But if you want to involve Cade Cunningham and you don't want to lay the minus 5,000, you can actually bet an exact 4. So if you have Cunningham 1, Green 2, Mobley 3, and Suggs 4, I don't want to say the P word parlay. I'm not a fan of parlays, but if you add them together, that's minus 175. That may be another way to attack Cade Cunningham tonight.
That could be fun, and those are what we've been seeing in the majority of mock drafts out there, is that as the 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's continue that NBA conversation when we come back. The draft once again later on tonight. Stick with us here on the Lombardi Line.
For decades, this area has been a hotbed for paranormal sightings.
This is a strange place, this part of the country.
Ed, where are you?
Something about it just doesn't feel right.
Dad? Strange things were happening back then, and strange things are happening again now.
I think I found something. This otherworldly corner of southeastern Massachusetts, the Bridgewater Triangle.
iHeartRadio and Grim & Mild presents Bridgewater, starring Misha Collins, Melissa Ponzio, and Nathan Fillion. Created by Aaron Mankey and written by Lauren Shippen. Listen to the first 2 episodes on August 6th and subscribe to the show for free on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Learn more at grimandmild.com/Bridgewater.
Paper Ghosts returns with an investigation into a tragedy that took place deep in America's heartland in a tucked-away Ohio town where a massive farmhouse belonging to a wealthy family erupted in flames.
The flames are everywhere.
All 4 residents inside were dead, and not a single person died from the flames or smoke. So the question becomes, what killed them? Or, more importantly, who?
My brother says, Carol, something's up. There is too much blood.
This season, I'm not chasing a missing persons flyer. I'm chasing a wanted poster.
That's how the mob works. They don't leave anybody.
I didn't want nobody to know what I was doing, because if they did, I wouldn't have lived till next day.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's your girl, Nyla Simone.
And I'm Mouse Jones.
Here to share some exciting info about our new podcast, The What? Hip-hop questions, legends, and lists. Each week, The What poses an unanswered yet nagging question discussed in hip-hop circles
and group chats.
And we help you find the answers.
That's right. You don't want to miss it. Each and every Monday, you can catch The What on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Wrapping things up here on the Lombardi Line as we welcome you back in. This show, as always, presented by BetMGM. And remember, you can bet fearlessly on your favorite sports with a risk-free wager up to $600 at BetMGM. Just sign up using the bonus code VSIN600. You can get into the game with the king of sportsbooks. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com and use promo code VSIN600 to make your first bet risk-free up to $600. New customer offer, paid in free bets. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Virginia, Washington, D.C., or West Virginia only. Excludes Michigan, disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Nevada, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, and 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. In Tennessee, you can call or text the red line at 800-889-9789. In Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Promotional offer not available in Nevada. Stormy Buonantony, Michael Lombardi, Josh Applebaum here with you as we wrap up a fun 2 hours. And tonight is the NBA draft. We had some breaking news from Michael, from Adrian Wojnarowski, who said that the Pistons will be selecting Cade Cunningham at 1. Of course, that is barring getting blown away with a trade potentially, but it seems like they're all in on Cade Cunningham, Josh.
Yeah, they are. And the happiest person right now is our buddy Patrick Maher, a long-suffering Detroit Pistons fan who is going to have some hope there with Sadiq Bey and Cunningham. So congrats to Patrick. We can't wait for him to come back on Lombardi line after his vacation. But Stormy, just some updates here. Michael broke the news about Cade Cunningham. His odds are pretty much off the board everywhere now. But again, we talked about that exact outcome odds. That could be a way where if you want some action on Cunningham, you can incorporate him to be the first pick overall. And then obviously Jalen Green 2, Mobley 3, and then Suggs 4. If you add those together, that's a minus 175. Remember, betting on drafts, there's different options, different props. You don't have to just go to the ones hanging, it closest in front of your face. Shop around, look, go down your odds and maybe locate some of these where you can incorporate other ways to bet these players. But the reason why we mentioned those guys is basically these are all moving up. Jalen Green has come up huge here, line movement wise, in terms of going second. He was minus 200 yesterday. Now he's minus 500. Mobley from USC to go to the Cavs. He was minus 175 yesterday. Now he's minus 350. Suggs, Michael, who I know you're high on, minus 160 up to minus 200 to go to the Raptors. And Scotty Barnes, this is the 5th pick. We've seen Scotty Barnes, Florida State, really make a move. He was minus 160, 5th overall to the Magic yesterday. Now he's minus 275. So, Michael, any of those jump out to you? Are those numbers just too high at this point? I mean, would you target maybe Suggs minus 200, Barnes 275? Those are a little bit lower, even though you're still kind of laying a decently high number there.
Well, just talking to people in the league recently, I think Cleveland's in play. I mean, Mobley is somebody that Cleveland would like. I'm not sure Mobley likes Cleveland as much as Cleveland likes Mobley, and they're getting a ton of conversation from Oklahoma City. They're getting Orlando Magic would like to trade up to get Mobley. I think 3's in play there. 4 is definitely in play. 4 is definitely in play, and I don't think 4 has made a decision. I think it's either Suggs or Barnes at 4. I think they're working between those two. I do think Mobley goes 3. I don't know if it's the team he'll go to, but I think he'll go 3. And then I think it could be Barnes at 4. I think it's a 50-50 proposition, and we could see by the way Barnes' movement has occurred that there's a lot of people talking about Barnes in that area. So I think it goes back and forth. But I think those are the 5 names that we keep hearing in there. And if you look at any of the mock drafts and go through all of them, that's where they are. Now, does Oklahoma City trade up to get the 2? Will they do that? They've been talking about really being very aggressive tonight, and that's why, I asked Jim Root what team was going to be the most aggressive, and I think that's the case. So, I think Barnes is a hot commodity, and I definitely think Mobley is a guy, like I mentioned, Dave Thorpe from True Hoop. He loves him. He said he would pick him number 1 overall. That's the interesting thing, is there's a lot of people that like Cade Cunningham that like other players in this draft.
Josh, I know we have a lot of MLB that we have to get to, but before we do, I was curious if there are any of those just props in terms of where players are going to go that stood out to you.
Yeah, there's a couple that are moving here. So again, you don't have to just bet who will go first, second, third, fourth. Remember, we have over-unders for pretty much every individual player here. So, Michael, here are a couple that caught my eye. Jalen Johnson, remember him? Highly touted prospect who left Duke early and caused kind of a lot of, there's a lot of controversy about that decision. He's really falling in a lot of these odds, which means his number's going up. So he was, I think, like 13.5, 12.5 at one point. It seems like a lot of people are betting Johnson to go over, which means fall in the draft. Over 15.5, minus 140. Miles McBride. Michael, you and I did a lot of West Virginia games. Remember him? He's a sharpshooter, great scorer here.
Oh, good
a lot of
player.
steam on McBride, yeah, under 29.5. That's -135. Keep an eye on him. And then just a couple. Keon Johnson from Tennessee, some over money for him. He's over 12.5, -150. Sharif Cooper from Auburn, over 22.5, -150. Trey Mann, point guard of Florida, over 24.5, -175. And if you're looking for a sleeper, guys, there's a player, Day'Ron Sharp from UNC. He's a center. He's 6'11". You don't hear much about this kid. Sharp seemed to like Sharp to go in that first round. Under 29.5 is -135. I think his number was 32 just a day ago. So some money coming in on Day'Ron Sharp here from UNC.
Well, he lost weight. I think that's the big thing for Sharp, and a number of teams are looking at him. And I think if he's there in that 25, 26, I think Brooklyn would sell their pick. I think somebody could move in there and take him. Josh, real quick before we get to baseball, where do you have Ben Simmons? What's his prop for when he's going to get traded?
Yeah, so the first thing I was so excited to ask you this is forget everything else, NFL draft. I want your Ben Simmons take, Michael. We have some updated odds on if he gets traded, who will he go to? So, Michael, the favorite right now across the board is the Portland Trailblazers. They're +150 for Simmons to be traded to. Then you have a couple other teams right around them. So the Wizards and Raptors, +200. The Heat, +250. The Spurs +300, and then the Warriors and the Knicks +400. But Michael, are you hearing anything, around Philly? Does it make sense with Portland? Is that a Damian Lillard, McCollum type situation? What do you think about Portland being the favorite there to land Simmons?
Well, I think Minnesota, Portland, and I want to say Minnesota, Portland are those two teams. They worked for Daryl Morey. Those general managers worked for Daryl Morey. So I think he has a complete relationship with those guys, and I think that'll pay dividends when it comes time to talk about where they're going to go. I also think that the Knicks, because of their cap room, not because of the relationship, they just have so much cap room. If they strike out on Chris Paul, what do? Do they try to make a run here? I think that certainly could be in play. But I'm with you on Portland. I think Portland makes the most sense. To me, the one thing I give Morey some credit for, he doesn't care. He'll trade him to the division. Like, if I was the general manager, I would want to trade. I would try to make a deal with Sacramento because I just put him there and not have to deal with it, and get something back. So I think that's what I would do. But they'll trade him. They talk about Miami being involved in this thing strongly. We shall see.
That's one of those things where certainly everybody's eyes and ears will be open to see what happens with the Ben Simmons situation. Again, the NBA draft tonight, 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 Eastern on ABC and ESPN. And if today's baseball slate, Josh, is anything like yesterday and the craziness with the Tigers and Twins, and we are in for a treat, what do you have for us in the MLB tonight?
Yeah, crazy. The Tigers, Stormy and Michael hit a game-winning field goal there at the end to win 17-14. Just crazy. If you had that home runs, incredible.
No home runs by the Twins. No home runs by the Twins, and they got what was it? One team didn't have a home run, right? They got 17 runs.
Detroit gave up 7 homers, didn't have a home run of their own, and won the game.
And still won. Yeah, unbelievable. But I would say, guys, one thing here.
Could there be a better place for Joey Gallo to go than the Knicks? I mean, how many than the Yankees? How many Gallo with a G? How many of those My Cousin Vinny things that we've seen since Gallo's going to New York? I mean, it's perfect, right? They should get Joe Pesci to come up there and join them.
I know. Has anyone checked in on Will Hill? He's got to be happy about that, right, Michael?
Oh, he's delighted. He's already texted me. The prospects are no big deal. They stole this guy, got a reliever out of it. Oh, yeah, he's back. He's full force in the Yankees. You get that, right? He's back. He'll probably bet him tonight, Josh.
I believe it. I would say a couple things, guys. I know we're up against it, but trade deadline right now, pay attention to lineups. There's a lot of guys who could be in, out of the lineup that could really affect line movement. One example today, Michael, Cincinnati Reds. They're at the Chicago Cubs. Cubs are resting or taking out of the lineup both Rizzo and Chris Bryant. So 2 big bats that they're holding back because they're probably going to be traded. Pay attention to how guys being held back could affect these lines. The Reds here, I'd be looking at a Reds play. They open around -114. They've been steamed up around -126, -130.
We love
They've
steam.
owned the Cubs this year. I love it, Stormy. They're 8-4 against the Cubs this year. They've won the first 2 of this series. So I'm looking at Cincinnati and then also the Red Sox tonight, guys.
And Josh, on that game right there.
Yeah.
Josh, on that game right there, real quick, the reason the under's at 7 is there's a 15-mile-an-hour wind blowing from the first base line at Wrigley Field. So that's why that line is so low right there. It's open at 7.5 and went down to 7.
Great point, Michael. Always pay attention to the wind at Wrigley. It can have the biggest effect on totals, 7.5 down to 7. The other one I would just mention, the Red Sox. They're at home against Toronto. Red Sox have seen a good move here. They open around minus 110-ish. Public's right down the middle. They don't know who to back. It's a good matchup, Ryu and Erod. But we've seen the line go to the Red Sox up to around minus 120. If you look at the splits here against lefties, because there's both lefties today, Red Sox 22-15 against lefties. Toronto only 11-16. So I'll be looking at the Sox here. Michael, anything, Mr. Baseball, you got on your card today?
Yeah, Michael, what you got?
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to go Brewers and the Pirates. I'll take the run line. I'll take the Brewers. I think Milwaukee's got a chance to get to the World Series. I get, their first baseman Tellez is hitting almost 394. I like it. They got, they've got everything going for them right now. I like Milwaukee. I'm a Brew Crew fan.
Hey now, 11 games on the slate tonight, and there's a couple games going on right now. A couple day sweats as well, Josh. I know how much you love those.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing better, Stormy. And NBA draft, well, let's see some fireworks tonight. I'm excited, guys.
Yeah, we already heard from Michael. He'll be muting it. He just doesn't like the whole hat thing.
No doubt. No.
Awesome stuff today, fellas. Appreciate you as always. And we'll see you again tomorrow on the Lombardi Line. That's going to put a bow on everything here today. But again, the NBA draft tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. This is the Lombardi Line.
Have you been to Express lately? People can't get enough of their clothes. They're like instant confidence boosters. The jeans come in a temp control fabric that keeps you comfortable no matter the weather. And the t-shirts, hands down, they'll feel like they're made of the softest fabric you've ever worn. And get this, the suits have stretch and look sharp. Like, what? How do they do that? Everyone's raving about the newest looks from Express. Just check out the 5-star reviews. See for yourself and shop the latest at express.com and in stores.
Hola, I'm Wilmer Valderrama, and I am excited to share my new podcast with you. Each week on Essential Voices, I'll be in conversation with an essential worker. Truck drivers, teachers, mental health professionals, grocery store workers. The folks that's kept society going during COVID and will keep it going long after. How can we continue supporting these folks and their society-sustaining professions as the nature of the pandemic continues shifting? Well, listen to Essential Voices with me, Wilmer Valderrama, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From iHeartRadio and the producers who brought you Murder in Oregon and Happy Face comes the new true crime podcast, Murder in Illinois.
Chris is unable to recall what happened.
We were not to say anything to anybody.
These drugs alter brain chemistry.
I'm Lauren Bright Pacheco. Join me for Murder in Illinois, Who Killed the Vaughn Family.
All bets are off.
Listen and follow Murder in Illinois on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.